Hey, this is NFTeve, and I'm here with Kokako, also known as Marcos, IRL, and he's a developer. He was a engineer turned developer. He's done some projects. So I asked him to come on. He's also a Diana Pellinor's gallery's brother, and they live in Canada. And how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, and thanks for hosting me, NFTeve. I'm really excited to be here. It is like an absolute honor to be interviewed by you and to talk. So like, thanks a lot. I'm at the moment in South America and LATAM visiting family. So it's been beach and sun, so I can't complain. I've escaped the Canadian minus 25 and the 40 centimeters of snow. So all good over here.
Beach and sun. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. That's pretty amazing. I have to move somewhere that's beach and sun. Like I can't take it Washington, D.C. anymore. Wow. So you were telling me that you made a collection. So you were you got into crypto recently. And so you made a collection to try to figure out how it works. So I wanted to see your collection, and I wanted you to tell us what you learned, how it works, because I personally, don't even understand a lot of things about collections. And it's actually the reason I started my channel, was to pick other people's brains. So I'm still doing that. So if you want to tell us
Cool.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'll do that. Yeah, I'm an engineer by training, and in the IRL, I still do a bunch of engineering and a bunch of energy and sustainability work. But I love the crypto space because it's just allowed me to be able to use all these kind of like technical skills and dev, but connect to awesome artists like yourself. And it's just like, I don't get a lot of exposure to art in my day-to-day IRL world, and so the crypto and the NFT has been this like really beautiful bridge between the two. And so I kind of wanted to start a project, which is like I love astrophotography, and I love like all things kind of universe related. And so I wanted to do this project around solar systems. I'm going to screen share, which was how I'd be able to just kind of learn the ropes. And so the first thing I did was this kind of website that I built using React, which is like the front end framework. So I just kind of like learned that, and that there's like heaps of awesome resources and tools out there for that. And so basically, I also don't want to go too far without acknowledging the artists. So the art that I've done, or that I'm using for this, has come from this awesome SVG is a file type, like it's an image file type. And Paul Herbert from Squiggles and Dots, who I've been in contact with about this project, he did a lot of the SVG. And what I really wanted to do was like a generative, random, on-chain art project. And I'll talk about, very briefly what all that means. So yeah, front end was one of the things that I started with, and I didn't test this before, but I'm going to try and open up the
yeah, while you open it, I'll tell everyone, hit the subscribe button, the bell button, smash the likes, and all of his links will be below. So the artist, all of the links of anything that we're sharing, you can find him. Follow him on Twitter. Okay.
Yeah, Coca-Cola Loon. They're my two favorite birds. I'm a New Zealand Canadian New Zealand, and so Coca-Cola and Loon are my two favorite birds from those countries. Yeah. I think it's really important that these NFTs, they come from smart contracts. Smart contracts are like bits of code that are on the blockchain. So I've got a Polygon smart contract that I wrote. That's what the link is for. And then you can see if it's been verified. So you can go to Polygon Scan, or you can go to Etherscan, and it's useful to see if any smart contract that you're buying an NFT from is verified. It just allows you to look at the code.
Oh, that's very smart. I didn't even.
Yeah. If it's not verified, it's hard to see the code, and so it's like really good practice for collections to have verified smart contracts. So that was one of the things that I did for my smart contracts. And then so then through the mint, it takes you to the mint page. And basically for my collection, what I meant by generative on-chain random is that all of the code to create the art is on the blockchain. And so when you mint a piece, it will generate a number of random elements, like the color of the sun, the number of planets, the radius of orbit distance from the sun, the sort of the shade in the solar system background. And then it'll produce all of that on chain. And then it'll create like an SVG code. And then that goes into your token. So when you buy an NFT, right? And I'm probably like gonna muck up this explanation, but it's like you're buying a token, you're minting something from a smart contract on the blockchain, and a lot of NFTs, that token will point to a JPEG, it'll point to an image file somewhere else, and that image file could be hosted centralized on somebody's server, which is not, I don't think, doesn't live and breathe the decentralization principle.
Oh,
Or it could be pointing to a decentralized image or file server, like IPFS is a really popular one. Or what I've done for my project is all of the image code actually lives on the blockchain. So there's no pointer to an external file. It's within the token.
that's very interesting. I mean, how did you get it in there?
Yeah, this is like where, in terms of like where the learning came from, this is
Uh-huh.
where it came from, because yeah, my code broke a lot of the, my code kept breaking stuff because I kept trying to do a really complex generative art piece, and the amount of like data that the token can hold is limited. And if you try to make it too big or too complex, it just gets really expensive for gas fees. And so that was one of the reasons why I chose Polygon, was that minting something on my contract, this was like a big learning, like a big lesson for me, was that it's a really complex transaction to execute. And so there's a hefty gas cost. And I didn't want to put it on Ethereum because I didn't want people to pay a lot for gas. So I'm like, you know what? On Polygon won't be a big deal. At the end of the day, if it's any kind of digital file is just code, right? Like if you just strip, it's like kind of like the matrix with like the ones and zeros, everything is just code. And so these solar system pictures, they are like SVG code. So it's just code that can live within, that can get rendered within a browser.
And what does the SVG stand for?
Scalable vector graphic. That was a great pop quiz question, NFTeve. Scalable vector graphic, and PNG and JPEG. Well, I don't actually remember what they stand for, but they're all just different ways of encoding the image file.
So it's just it's a certain kind of image file.
Yeah, it's a certain kind of image file, and it's just easier. It's like a programmatic image file. It's very easy to write code that will create SVG files, whereas like a JPEG or a PNG, you need like an image editor to create those easily. So a lot of the on-chain generative artwork is SVG. And when people say it's on-chain or off-chain, right? Off-chain is like when the file is stored outside of the blockchain. So when it's stored on that centralized or decentralized solution. And on-chain is when the file is stored on the actual blockchain. So yeah, I think like on-chain is.
Let me stop and ask you some questions, because I didn't really, I mean, I do hear talk of this, but I did not really understand it until you explained it. So which platforms have the art actually on chain? Because I actually think that's extremely important, because like you said, it's not decentralized. It means that whoever has that server, owns that art basically. So that's a huge issue.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it is. And that's like, there's always like really robust conversations happening in Devland around like how much you make this decentralized versus how centralized. So I think I could definitely be wrong, and I'm sure your listeners will comment on it. I think like the original CryptoPunks, they're on chain. The art is simple enough. but it lives within the blockchains. Something that's complex, like all the apes, they're off chain, and it's very much the standard for the art to be off chain. And that's because, and I think that, that's okay. It's just, it's a limitation currently of the blockchain, in that if you want to do a complex piece of art, whether it's like a PFP or, this beautiful one-to-one collection, it takes up a lot of data. And getting the data and keeping the data on chain takes up a lot of effort. And that's what gas comes from. Gas is basically—
I did not realize this either, that the gas depends on the complexity of the piece. I really had no idea either. So I learned so many things. Wow.
So yeah, so the gas cost that we, as users have to pay is made up of two components. It's made up of whatever the gas price is at the moment, right? And it's made up of how complex the transaction is, whatever that transaction is. So that's why when you're doing like a transfer of coin to somebody, from your wallet to somebody's wallet, it's a very simple transaction. So usually the gas cost will be quite low. When you're minting, particularly if you're minting on-chain complex art, even if gas price is low, the complexity is high, and so your overall gas cost is high. And so, yeah, it's very much it's very much the norm to have your art stored off-chain. But I would say that even if you're going to do that off-chain, there are decentralized solutions for storing your art off-chain. So IPFS is a decentralized file server. So that is trying to respect the principle of decentralization. I would be very cautious about collections that have the art stored on somebody's central server, because that's how a lot of these rugs—
Yeah, that's not even blockchain, man.
No, and there's been some really—
That's like against the whole point.
And there's been some terrible stuff that's happened, right? Where it's like you buy, you think you're buying a piece of art that you love, but it's pointing to a file on somebody's server. And then after the person who, like the owner of that collection, when they want to pull the rug, they just change the files on the server. They just kind of like close the server down, and then everyone's tokens don't have any art associated. It's like all the art's gone.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, be cautious, be extra cautious about anything that has like a centralized server hosted image. It's really, you gotta go with at least IPFS as a decentralized, because once it's on that network, it's on the network.
Yeah, because I know that my friend Tan May, he's always talking about freezing metadata on OpenSea and this and that, and I don't know how that.
Yeah, so it's a wild west, but
so you have not done that, which is great. Like, I already really like your project, because it's true NFT.
I wanted to do something that was like really, really, like the principles of crypto for me, which is like, one, decentralized, so having everything on chain. And then I also think being like transparent with what you're doing. And that's why I wanted to get the contract verified. And so it's sort of like, it's all open, like the code is open. So you can ask somebody who's familiar with Solidity to just look through the contract and say, oh yeah, okay, there's nothing like untoward here. Like, that's the other kind of weird thing about crypto, is that it's trying to create a trustless environment where you don't need, you just assume, you don't assume any trust, which, because everything is transparent, you can kind of audit it yourself. And so, yeah, all the metadata and the image, it all just gets all within the token on chain. I've stopped my share because I figured like there's nothing more
but
to
we'll go back to it. So I want to see your project again. It's so awesome. So what about Decentraland? Where do they keep? If I buy a $30,000 piece of land on Decentraland, like, who really owns it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
I'm gonna look into it, because Decentraland's kind of, I think of it as like the Bitcoin of metaverse. The first. well, I mean, Bitcoin is so amazing in itself, you know, it's concept, but yeah,
It feels, yeah, I mean, the big, like going back to your question about what did I learn and lessons, like it's amazing the freedom that I've, as a developer, doing the art, doing the contract, being able to put it out there for everybody has been awesome. On the other hand, something that is, what we need to overcome as we build the infrastructure is how it feels like it's really alpha. Like you got to do, each transaction needs to be signed through a separate wallet. There's gas fees, in, like, for Ethereum, it ranges, right? Like $50 to $150, depends on, and like how do we make this seamless for people so that they're not, when they come in to the, and they want to buy an NFT or they want to like learn about an artist's collection, that they're not overwhelmed with all these things like, oh, I got to figure out when gas fees are low and then I've got to connect my wallet. So it's exciting because it feels like a little bit like the first version of computers or the first version of cars.
where you had to write in zeros and ones.
Yeah, and when like a computer took up the whole, the size of a whole room, and how clunky that was. So it's clunky, but it's exciting because it feels like it's a prototype and it's just going to iterate and get better and better.
So what you're doing is you're trying to create new technologies or new uses for the technologies that are happening.
I'm trying to help with that. And, but I'm also really trying to connect with artists and help artists out because I think the connection between the tech and the art is what I find so fascinating about it, the crypto space. And it's like a lot of artists have this amazing content. And then it's sort of the question is, well, what do I do with it? How do I work with it? And that's where I think you team up with a dev and you're like, right, what do you want your art to do? Where do you want your art to go? Because you can just put it as one-to-ones, or you can have it as, interactive NFTs, or you can do this kind of like buy a collection will then unlock you or whitelist you into future collections. And so it's kind of whatever you want. And it's taken out a lot of the middle folk.
Wow. I want to go back to your solar system because it was amazing. So do you have like a list, a view of all your different solar systems that you could show us? Because I really like your project. And then I'm also curious, I wanted to say, like, it's very beautiful. So you mint the project, you don't know what colors are going to come up. You don't know what planets are going to get, I would just want to hear more about your solar system.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can just do this real quickly. That's one of the other things I've learned is I probably needed to spend more time creating some better, I don't know, marketing for it. But yeah, I'll show you some of the test solar systems that I was minting.
Yeah, you need to get together with a marketer because I like your concept, and I think it's also teaching, when your project comes out, it's like, hey, everybody, this is an on-chain solar system.
So hopefully now you could see, and if
Polygon's only $1 right now, so that would only be like $25.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it really accessible, and whatever I can get from it, I'm doing like a kind of, if we hit a certain number, I'll donate to astronomy charity in New Zealand. But I'm also, looking for to help me support being a dev and kind of going more in this space. So hopefully you can see a kind of like and it's all random. And that's kind of like, I think about the beauty of it is you don't know what you're going to get. But here's like a little sample of the different solar systems that you could produce. And this is all from my test net. So this is when I was actually testing it out. So these, yeah.
So they can buy them on your link, and they can also buy them on OpenSea, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, when you mint one of the solar systems, it goes on your account. and it'll automatically show up on OpenSea. And then you
Oh,
can,
in your Matic wallet.
yeah, exactly. And
That's so cool.
and then yeah, and then you can and then it'll show up in your account on OpenSea, and you can sell it or you trade it. And yeah, I don't know. It was really like a project for me to learn how to do the smart contract coding, and also how to do the front end and do the website and connect, and actually then connect the two things, because you've got to host the front end, and then it's got to connect to the blockchain in order to send the transactions and receive the verifications, and yeah, that side of stuff.
That's awesome. So I have a project coming out. It's my cats. I didn't think of sharing my screen. I don't know what's on my computer. I don't even know if the cats are on my computer. They're not really. They're not. But I'm making cats, like one-of-one cats for now. And I'm gonna drop them around Valentine's Day because it's love is eternal. They're like they're skeletons. But mostly they're like two cats, and there's some themes around love and just other themes. And so this is what I'm curious, like I really have no idea what I'm doing as far as dropping a collection, because as a physical artist, it's just not my area of interest. Like I don't really even know about apes. I have not gotten into the PFP. I see it every day, but I have not, really comprehended, how it works. And then this utility and this and that. I was thinking of maybe, I work with some orphans and a hospital in Haiti, this amazing organization. Thinking of maybe like doing something and to support them, or like what can I do? Like maybe I shouldn't release it too soon, because sometimes in the crypto space, and the reason why I haven't released more NFTs, I do have some performance art NFTs, and if you fine art NFTs out there. And also have experimental ones, I have stuff for like one TES, on picking up. Everybody get them. They're gonna be worth a lot one day. But I'm in the same thing, just kind of trying out stuff. Okay, how's it gonna go? So since I have you here, like what, do you have any tips?
Oh,
Any tips?
yeah, okay. I kind of think about it in 3 steps, and I'm definitely can't speak about all the steps. Like step 1 is your art, and like as an artist, thinking about what do you want to put out there and turn into an NFT, and what's the collection, right? And that's the kind of like, that's a super exciting bit as an artist. Then step 2 is your infrastructure for blockchains. And so the absolute easiest thing to do is just use the OpenSea, the standard OpenSea contract, upload your art, mint with OpenSea. They've taken a lot of the thinking out for you. So as an artist, you don't have to get too detailed. There's some drawbacks, because obviously, like what you trade with convenience, you trade away functionality, you trade away, like there's like a built-in royalty that OpenSea takes.
Oh, really? They're taking royalties in perpetuity?
There's like a
they're gonna be so rich. That's amazing. Whoa.
Yeah, I think OpenSea will do okay.
Holy crap.
And then once you build your infrastructure, the third bit is like the community and connecting with the I don't know if marketing is not the right word, but it's like promoting and letting people awareness and letting people know about the art, and that is like those are kind of like at a high level the 3 steps. And so as an artist and a dev, like of course this is the dev perspective. There's a lot of talk about the artist. I think actually because it's a combination of technology and art, like I see projects as being like a really nice partnership between the developers and the artists. And so once people are comfortable enough and they've done some OpenSea stuff, and they're like, yeah, I want to actually build my own smart contract, I want to have complete agency over my art, and I want to build some utility into it and do some cool funky stuff with it, react it with some mutant ooze and turn it into like some mutinated NFT. So then you kind of find a dev, and then I think you build like a little project up, and then you go into that kind of awareness. And the community side is not something I can talk a lot about. I'm not super great at it. I don't, but that like, but then that's kind of like, that's how the steps are, right? One is like your art, two is figuring out what platform you're going to use. Everyone starts off with OpenSea usually, but eventually when you're confident enough though, you don't, reach out, and we're all learning. Like, don't be scared. Like I'm definitely on a learning curve. I'm not, I haven't been doing this for 20 years. And so you kind of learn with the artist, and then, yeah, you launch.
That's the thing too, is like, I mean, we were on a space last night, and the guy's like, yeah, because you spend, I mean, I'm already up on OpenSea, so I was going to do mine on OpenSea. But yeah, I mean, that's why I've gone really slow, because you can put your stuff up too fast. You can put it the wrong price. Because when I first started, it's like selling JPEG, everybody's the same. You're just gonna selling JPEGs, man. Like, give me $10, I'll be fine. Like, especially with royalties, you're like, okay, I can get $10, and then when it sells for $100, I'll get $10, and when it sells for $1,000, I'll get $100, and it sells for $10,000, I'll get $1,000, whatever, $1,000 in because it's like just getting the mind around like the pricing and stuff like that, and the value.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm not super great at that. I haven't thought too much about it, but
Oh yeah, I think it's relative. It's the same as in the real art world. I mean, except for that, at a certain level, you get your art up to a certain price. But when you're when you're new in the field, I mean, some people go low, they do well. Some people go high, they do well. Like, you just never know. So
it's nice how it's created a platform though for people to be able to, regardless if you're like a really famous artist or you're just breaking out, there is like a great equalizer in the sense that, an NFT is an NFT, and you could, as a starting out early career artist, you can put them out there, and that I think is super exciting.
yeah, anybody, you could like, okay, I just started to, so many people when I was in the crypto space, and then all of a sudden NFTs came out, everybody's like, okay, now I can learn how to make art, So I think it's awesome, and then a lot of people, probably those people, that was like 2 years ago. So probably a lot of those people may be pretty good artists by now. And yeah. So, tú hablas español, ¿quieres hacer otro rápido en español para demostrar tu...
To say mi español is like, I'm terrible at Spanish. No puedo hablar español. Solamente. Yeah, I mean, like, I can do French, I can do English. I'm the only one in my family. Everyone in my family can speak like Spanish and Portuguese, and I'm like I'm the black sheep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. If you want to, we can do a quick one in French, just for fun. Is it that Canadian French?
Yeah, like the Quebecois French. Yeah, no.
I've been there. I have friends there. Poutine. That's like, have you eaten that stuff? That stuff is amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, I'm happy. It's okay. I think keep it English is okay for me. It'd be
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. I think your program is very interesting. I hope people will reach out to you if they want a developer and to do projects. You're highly recommended, and I can tell by your project that you really have such a great concept on what you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you. And I was just going to say, like, if anyone has questions, and you're just like, oh, does this smart contract look dodgy? Like, what's going on? And I'm happy to help answer questions. I'm happy to help, like, just look through contract code and see if there's anything untoward happening. And yeah, it's been really awesome to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Like, what an honor. Cool to do this. And I love your art. I love the cats. And I'm gonna just see like where that goes. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it. That's what I realized. I was like, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, so everybody follow him on Twitter. You can hit the DMs. And I also did have a question for you. And that's really good to know, because everybody needs a devs, and devs are very expensive to hire. So if somebody could do like a quick look and help you out, like somebody that come recommended, so you came recommended, because it's scary. It's like, you don't want a bad dev, like that could cost you a lot of heartache and money, which is, even worse. And so like, Yeah, that's great. So thanks for coming on board. We're the artist team. You ever need anything in the arts department, we can do anything basically.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ciao. Everybody smash the like, subscribe, and comment. You can ask questions too, and I'll redirect you over to him. Ciao.